Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Somewhere in Denver right now, Sean Payton and Vance Joseph are watching film of Jim Harbaugh fumbling his way through a football interview, and they cannot stop laughing. Because what they just watched wasn't just an awkward soundbite. It was proof. Proof that the single most dangerous weapon the Los Angeles Chargers had for the last 2 seasons just walked out the door. And Jim Harbaugh has no idea how to replace it. Stick around, because we are about to break down the most underreported storyline of the entire NFL offseason, and by the time we're done, you are going to understand exactly why Broncos country should already be circling a date in February. And hey, before we dive in, if you haven't already, smash that like button and hit subscribe, because Broncos is about to become your one-stop shop for everything Denver Broncos, and trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming. Let's start with the tape that got everybody talking. Colin Cowherd had Jim Harbaugh on his show, and he asked him a simple softball question. How is this Chargers defense going to evolve? How does it get even better? And what came out of Harbaugh's mouth was, frankly, embarrassing. He stammered. He repeated himself. He asked his own team on air if evolvement was a word. He couldn't name a single scheme concept. He couldn't explain a single defensive philosophy. He just kept circling back to names: Mike, Jesse, this guy, that guy, like a man who genuinely does not understand the machine he's supposedly running. And Cowherd's face said it all. You could see the exact moment the host realized he was talking to a head coach who cannot speak intelligently about his own defense. Now, is that actually surprising? Not if you know Jim Harbaugh's career. This is a coach who has always operated as the rah-rah energy guy, the motivator, the sideline screamer who lets someone else handle the X's and O's. That formula won him a national championship at Michigan, sure. But here's the thing about college football: you're working with players who have 16 other things going on. Class, part-time jobs. A playbook that's a fraction of the size of what NFL players are asked to memorize. You can get away with pure energy and athleticism at that level. You cannot get away with it in the pros, where grown men eat, sleep, and breathe football for a living and expect their head coach to actually know what he's talking about. Colin Cowherd made that same observation years ago about Harbaugh's stint in San Francisco, that his act simply wears itself out everywhere he goes, because eventually the room needs substance and all he's got is volume. So how did Harbaugh survive in Los Angeles? Simple, he had Jesse Minter. And Jesse Minter just left for Baltimore. Let that sink in for a second, because this is the part nobody in the national media wants to talk about. Jesse Minter was the actual engine behind the Chargers defense, the coordinator who took a unit that was an absolute disaster and turned it into one of the most feared defenses in football. And the Ravens just handed him the keys to their entire franchise, making him their new head coach after parting ways with John Harbaugh, Jim's own brother, following 18 seasons in Baltimore. Think about that layer of irony for a second. The Ravens fired one Harbaugh brother and immediately turned around and hired Jim Harbaugh's own defensive coordinator to replace him. That is not a coincidence. That is the entire league telling you exactly who the real engineer of that Chargers defense was. Let's actually look at the numbers, because they are jaw-dropping. Before Minter ever set foot in Los Angeles, the Chargers were a bottom-feeder defense, 24th in scoring, 28th in total defense, giving up roughly 23 points and nearly 400 yards a game. And this wasn't some roster gutted by injuries or bad talent evaluation. It was largely the same group of players. Then Minter shows up, and in year one, that same roster rockets to the #1 scoring defense in the entire NFL and 11th overall. Points allowed drops from 24 a game to 19. Yardage drops from nearly 400 to around 300. By year two, they're a top 5 defense across the board, allowing under 300 yards and under 19 points a game. That is not a scheme tweak. That is a total transformation built entirely on the mind of one coordinator, and every player who has ever suited up for him will tell you the same thing. Derwin James has openly credited Minter with the huge payday he landed. Tuli Tuipulotu, their star pass rusher, practically begged him not to leave. Even Harbaugh himself has gone on record calling him a phenomenal leader and a brilliant football mind. So now ask yourself the obvious question. Who in the world replaces a coach like that? Enter Chris O'Leary, 34 years old. A former Chargers safeties coach who left Los Angeles to become the defensive coordinator at Western Michigan, a Mid-American Conference program, for a single season before Harbaugh brought him right back to run the whole show. Now, to be fair, O'Leary's 1 year at Western Michigan wasn't a disaster. His unit finished 9th nationally in scoring defense and was one of the better groups in the MAC. But let's be honest about what that actually means when you're talking about replacing the architect of an NFL top 5 defense. This is a first-time NFL coordinator 1 year removed from calling plays against Mid-American Conference offenses, now being asked to walk into SoFi Stadium and hold together a defense that is losing its brain trust in the same offseason it's already digesting a brand new offensive coordinator in Mike McDaniel. That is an enormous amount of transition for one roster to absorb all at once, and early training camp reports out of Los Angeles have actually been fairly encouraging for O'Leary. His group has been active, opportunistic, forcing turnovers in camp. But preseason buzz is one thing. Replicating a top 5 NFL defense as a rookie play caller is an entirely different mountain to climb, and history is not exactly littered with examples of first-year coordinators stepping into that exact situation without growing pains. And it's not just the coaching staff that's in flux. Let's talk about the Tuli Tuipulotu situation, because this is the kind of storyline that should have Chargers fans nervous heading into the season. Tuipulotu is coming off a monster year. 13 sacks, nearly 50 total tackles, one of the best pass rushers in the entire league. He is set to be the anchor of this new-look defense. And instead of a clean, drama-free camp, the Chargers have spent weeks locked in a contract standoff with their own best defender. He showed up to camp but wouldn't practice with the team for days. He worked out on the side with a personal trainer instead of grinding with his new coordinator. Jim Harbaugh tried to spin it as him ramping up. Nobody bought it. This is a classic hold-in. A player making it clear he is not signing off on a deal that undervalues him, right as the edge rusher market around the league is exploding with names like Will Anderson cashing in at $50 million. Now, to give credit where it's due, Tuipulotu has since returned to full team drills. And it does look like the two sides are trending toward getting something done. But here's the real cost. Every single day he wasn't running with the first-team defense was a day that brand-new coordinator Chris O'Leary didn't get to build real chemistry with his most important piece, right as he's trying to install an entirely new scheme with a fraction of the experience Jesse Minter had. Now, let's flip this whole conversation over to Denver, because this is where the story gets fun. While the Chargers are out here trying to replace a genius on the fly and smooth over a contract fight with their best pass rusher, the Broncos have built something that looks a whole lot more stable. Sean Payton and Vance Joseph are not scrambling to replace anybody. There's no coordinator carousel. There's no star player holding out. Denver has consistently made a habit of paying its own players early, avoiding exactly the kind of messy, drawn-out drama that's been swirling around Tuipulotu's camp situation in Los Angeles. That stability matters, especially in a division where continuity has become the separator. And then there's the facilities conversation, which honestly deserves its own video. There's no denying the Chargers have made a serious investment in recent years. Their move into the Bolt, their new state-of-the-art training complex in El Segundo, genuinely helped turn around what was once one of the worst-rated player environments in the league. Say what you want, that's a real upgrade, and it's helped the organization climb the player satisfaction rankings across the NFL in a hurry. But here's the thing. Denver isn't sitting still either. Reports out of the Broncos' own facility have described jaws hitting the floor over the kind of recovery technology now available to Denver's players. Cryotherapy, red light therapy, ice baths, the works. All part of an organization that has been aggressively investing in keeping its roster healthy and on the field. When both franchises are pouring resources into player care, the differentiator stops being who's got the nicer building and starts being who's actually winning the games that matter. And that's exactly where this story circles back to the Chargers' real problem. Because here's the brutal truth nobody wants to say out loud. Justin Herbert has never won a playoff game. Not one. And it hasn't been because of his arm talent. Everybody around the league agrees he's one of the most physically gifted quarterbacks in football. It's been because the parts around him have never lined up. Last season, the Chargers' offensive line was banged up for stretches, with key pieces like rookie standout Omarion Hampton missing time. Their receiving core outside of Ladd McConkey, their dynamic but often injured slot weapon, has been thin for years. Now toss in the fact that starting offensive tackle Rashawn Slater is working his way back from a torn patellar tendon, an injury that has historically been almost impossible for offensive linemen to fully return from at the same level. Mike McDaniel might bring some genuinely creative, exciting wrinkles to this offense as the new coordinator. Nobody's denying his track record for scheming players open, but an improved play-calling voice doesn't fix a line that's had durability questions. And it definitely doesn't replace a top-5 defense that was single-handedly bailing this team out for 2 straight seasons. That's the equation Chargers fans need to sit with heading into this season. The offense may get marginally better with McDaniel's fingerprints on it, but the defense, the actual foundation this team's success was built on, just lost its architect to a head coaching job. Replaced him with a 34-year-old making his first run at NFL play calling, and spent the opening weeks of training camp negotiating with its best defensive player instead of building continuity with him. Meanwhile, across the division, the Denver Broncos are sitting here with a defense anchored by proven difference makers like Nick Bonito and Zach Allen. A receiver room that's added real juice with names like Jalen Waddle alongside Cortland Sutton and Marvin Mims. An offensive line that's been one of the more underrated strengths on the roster, and a quarterback in Bo Nix who is still climbing, still developing, and doing it inside a stable, well-run organization that isn't losing its best coaches every offseason. So when you step back and actually look at the full picture, not the preseason hype, not the everybody loves the Chargers every single year media noise that follows this franchise around, but the actual cold, hard facts, the math heavily favors Denver. The Chargers' best coordinator is gone. Their best defensive player just spent training camp in a contract standoff. Their head coach can't articulate his own defensive philosophy in a national interview. And their offense, even with an upgrade at coordinator, still has real questions at the skill positions and along the offensive line. The Broncos, on the other hand, are the more stable, more cohesive, more battle-tested roster heading into this season. And they've already proven they can win this division once. There is nothing on paper suggesting the Chargers have closed that gap. If anything, they've widened it themselves. Broncos country, you can go ahead and start planning that trip to February, because your Denver Broncos are built better, coached better, and positioned better than the Los Angeles Chargers heading into this season. And nobody should be able to convince you otherwise. This division runs through Denver, and it's going to stay that way. If this breakdown got you fired up, do not scroll past without hitting that like button. It genuinely helps this channel grow. Drop a comment and let us know if you think the Chargers can survive losing Jesse Minter, or if you're already booking that trip to the Super Bowl with us. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit subscribe right now so you never miss a single breakdown, because Broncos is just getting started and we've got a whole lot more Broncos football talk coming your way. Let's go, Broncos country.